Okay, everyone, we are back with another declutter. Today, we are going to be doing base products, and I'm going to start off with all the products that I can gift to other people. Either they're unopened or only been used a couple times. So let's start out with sunscreen. I got this Juice Beauty sunscreen in an Ipsy box. Lord, this is bad. Oh, it is thick and heavy and white and just not the vibe for a sunscreen. It just like stays looking like this on your face forever. And it has I can smell it from here. It has a bunch of essential oils that make it smell really herbal. It's just not pleasant. Honestly, I think I'm gonna have a pretty hard time finding a home for this. These are sad ones for me because I loved the texture of these. I love Replenix as a skincare brand. All of their products have so many wonderful ingredients packed with antioxidants. My problem, of course, is that my skin's so sensitive I can only use mineral sunscreens, and both of these are a mineral chemical hybrid. But let me just show you the texture. I'm sure I can find friends who want these because they were really beautiful. This is the tinted one, and it just feels like a serum. Unfortunately, the tint is too dark for me, so even if I could use chemical sunscreens, it would be too dark. But if you have a medium skin, I'm sure this would be amazing. This one was my favorite because it was hydrating, it was sheer, it's SPF 50, feels incredible on the skin. That yellow tint dissipates really quickly, and you're just left with this beautiful hydrating finish of a sunscreen. If I could wear this, my God, it would be my favorite sunscreen texture. Replenix just kills it, but unfortunately, I can't use it. Okay, now for the foundations that I've barely used. All of these you will have seen in my full face of makeup fails. These are the Bare Minerals Hydrating Complexion Rescue Sticks. I don't like these from Bare Minerals because I find that the texture is very heavy. It's a little, like on one hand, it is hydrating, but it's also just, it's heavy. This is in the shade Birch. This one's in the shade Opal. Oof, gotta clean that up. See, I think you can see, it doesn't slide on. It's just kind of thick. And then this one's Vanilla, and I've barely used these. I've just swatched them and worn them like once or twice. But really the reason I am decluttering so many Bare Minerals products is because look at these shades. Everything from Bare Minerals is so yellow. And ultimately the texture was just really unflattering on my skin. Like, I think you can see, it's just, see how heavy that looks? Now with their Bare Pro concealers, I actually like the texture of these. They are a little bit more like slippery. This one's in the shade Light Neutral 4. This one's in the shade Fair Cool 1. But again, all the shades they sent me are either too light or too yellow. So even though these have a nice texture where there's a little bit more slip to them than the Complexion Rescue Hydrating Sticks, these have a nice amount of coverage. I just can't find a shade that matches me. I'm not going to swatch these two because I just uploaded a full review and demo of both of these in one video, so check that out. But basically what I learned was that serum foundations just really don't work for my skin. For some reason, they emphasize texture. Even though they apply beautifully and they feel beautiful, they just end up looking really textured on my face, and I'm not sure why. So luckily, I had just purchased this one with point perks on Sephora. It was just like a little promo code, so I didn't spend any money on the Tarte. And on the Fenty one, I mentioned previously that I have like a really nice friend mail group where we send products back and forth that we didn't like so that our friends can try them. And my friend Devin sent me this one. She's Dev's Day on Instagram. If you don't follow her, check her out. She's fucking amazing. And she sent this to me. It didn't work for her and it didn't work for me either. So I'm going to pass this to someone else. Next up, this is the sort of foundation or miscellaneous category of products that are too used or too old for me to gift. I actually think that this might be an exception because I have applied this several times on camera, but I'm sure I can find an influencer friend who wants to try it regardless. So you saw this in my full face of makeup fails. This is the Merit Complexion Stick in Dune. And ultimately, while this is a really nice shade match for me because there's a little bit of pink in it, even though it doesn't look like that on camera right now, I can't give it a great review because you get almost no product and it's quite expensive. But more importantly, this just looks really textured and dry on my face. I hope you can see on my hand right now, it's quite matte. You know, like there's no shine to that. So I don't know why I have so many friends who love this and who say it's hydrating, but on me, I mean, do you see how matte that is? It really makes my skin look dry. The Serum tinted moisturizers, I had a dedicated review on these, but if you go back and watch my video, products I've changed my mind about, you will see all of these in there. And I don't wear any of these anymore for the exact same reasons, which is when you have a makeup product that's a hybrid of makeup and zinc oxide, you end up getting a pretty high coverage base. And combined with the natural texture of zinc oxide, which is very thick and heavy, you end up getting a very heavy feeling product on the skin. And I used to love these. I mean, these were my go-to every single day on top of sunscreen. Ultimately, I just want to get my sunscreen from my sunscreen because that's where I want the most protection. And then on top, I want something that's more of a really good makeup item. Rather than a product that's like okay at sunscreen and okay at makeup, I want a product that's an incredible sunscreen and on top, an incredible tinted moisturizer, you know? So the Serum texture, though I really enjoyed it, it was incredibly full coverage. They only have 4 shades, so I had to mix the 2 of these. And while they're affordable, buying 2 separate products is just not realistic for consumers. Same thing with the old formulation of the Supergoop CC cream. Very full coverage makeup product, and I don't wear full coverage bases anymore. So it just ended up making my skin look really heavy. So already something I've learned about myself and in terms of my, habits as a consumer is not to buy any more tinted mineral sort of makeup products. Now this actually isn't a declutter. I've just never filmed an empties video before. So I wanted to show that I've pretty much used up the Sun Visor sunscreen. I probably have like 2 more weeks of this left, but I just wanted to include it that, I used it up. Then this was the star product of the full face of makeup fails video. This brow pencil from Serum is like, what is this? Why? It's like bright orange. It's so hard and waxy. It's the worst brow product I've ever tried. I really can't recommend that anyone purchases that formula. The Anastasia Beverly Hills Brow Definer. This is an ash brown. I just didn't like, again, I feel like this is my mom's like old pencil. I just feel like it's a little too hard and waxy. Next up, we have concealers, and all of these are products that I would not give to anyone else because they are either extremely old. The Oma Beauty Concealer in White Pearl T1, it's supposed to be full coverage, but it completely disappears on me. I mean, even at first you saw in that video as I applied it, it just like disappeared as I blended it. It's looking better and more full coverage on my hand, but I swear to you, after an hour of use, there's no concealer on my face. I have this Cover FX like under eye corrector in the shade Peach, and it's just too orange. It ended up darkening all of my concealers, so that didn't work for me. If you want to see a swatch, it's hella orange. Most of these are really just shade issues. I think the Hello Fab Bendy Avocado Concealer is a beautiful formula, but again, this is number 2. It's yellow. It's straight yellow. I'm white, but I have a hard time finding shades for myself because I'm in between fair and light in terms of the lightness or depth of my skin, but I'm very, very cool toned. So everything looks yellow on me, and I need brands to like actually release very cool tone shades, not just if you have porcelain skin. This entire shade range is probably the worst I've ever seen. It's like everything is like super yellow. The ColourPop Pretty Fresh Concealer is one of my favorite concealers of all time. This is actually my favorite foundation style product. I use these and I dot it in a few different places all over my face, blend it out with a brush, and I have the most perfect, most natural looking base ever. No foundation or tinted moisturizer. Really gives me the natural look of the Pretty Fresh concealer. These are just shades that didn't work for me because I had a hard time. It was during COVID. I couldn't go swatch in stores, so I bought 3 different shades. This is Light 33C, which as you can see is too light for me. And then this is Light 60N, which you can see is too dark for me. My Goldilocks color is right in the middle, which is Light 40N, and it's my absolute perfect shade match. This is just so thin and blendable, but it still has quite a lot of coverage. So it's just the perfect like base product to use as a foundation. I just think that, you know, spot concealing all over the face is kind of more beautiful than foundation. I don't know what I was thinking when I bought this Ilia concealer like 2 years ago. This is the Ilia True Skin Serum Concealer in Suma. Look at this shade. What was I thinking? Can you tell this is before I started getting really serious about sunscreen? That is so dark. And like I wore this in YouTube videos when I first launched my channel. I was still like trying to tan at that time. I can't believe it. Yeah, beautiful, beautiful texture, just way too dark for me. A while ago, I actually featured this Neutrogena Radiant Cream Concealer as my top 5 best concealers. Because I liked using it all over my face. It's way too light coverage under my eyes. But I also thought that the shade match was really nice for me. As you can see, this is one of the ones that doesn't look too yellow on my skin. And this is in the shade Ecru Light 2. Beautiful, dewy, hydrating concealer. But ultimately, it's actually just too dewy for me now. I noticed that with hydrating concealers, Amanda Z said this in her video, and this is what made me realize I actually didn't like this. She mentioned that oftentimes if you have a concealer that's overly dewy, it reflects too much light and then it kind of accentuates darkness under your eyes. And I realized that's what this concealer was doing. It's just too dewy and it's so light coverage that it didn't look very cute. I enjoy this Laura Mercier Flawless Fusion Concealer. This is in the shade 1N. Unfortunately, I can't find a shade. Surprise, surprise, do you see a pattern here? I love this little bendy applicator though. Look at that go. I love paddle applicators, especially when they're like super flexible like that. I just find it very satisfying and so much nicer to apply. Anyways, this shade 1N is a little too light for me, but most importantly, I noticed when I moved to the Bay Area that this just started looking really dry under my eyes. It was fine when I was in LA and my skin was a little bit more oily, but now, given the fact that it's too light and looks too drying, I'm gonna pass this on. I've had this also for many, many years. Last but not least, I actually really enjoy these Wander Beauty concealers. I have the shades Fair, Fair Light, and Light, but Wander Beauty sent me 3 more darker shades because they were trying to convince me that they made a shade for me, and they don't. I know myself very well, and I could tell that they did not make a concealer that was cool toned enough for me. This is the shade Fair. This is the shade Fair Light. And this is the shade Light. I mean, come on guys. Wander Beauty, you cannot tell me that any of these are cool toned and a good match for me. I like using the liquid side, these all over my face, kind of like I mentioned before as like a base product. And then I do find that I really like this matte stick. It's like smooth and it's not too heavy, but I think this is a really nice dual multitasking product, but they just, again, they don't make my shade. Let's just take a moment to reflect here on my declutter journey. It is very clear to me that I need to stop spending money on concealer. I don't want to keep doing that anymore. So what I've done with my collection, which I'll show you later, is I only have my Fit Glow Concealer in C2.5, my e.l.f. Hydrating Camo Concealer in Light Peach, and my Makeup Forever Ultra HD Full Cover Concealer. Those are the only 3 concealers I need. They match me perfectly. They fill all of the spots. They check the boxes. I don't need anything else. These are all cheek products that I can give to other people. I have barely touched these. You will have seen these first 2 in my full face of makeup fails. These to me are not fails. They just don't work. But the ColourPop Cheek Dew Serum Blush and Beyond, while a beautiful shade, is incredibly patchy when you blend it out on the skin. It's just like you start blending it and then first of all, it disappears. And then you're like, okay, well, I want to add more. I want more blush. And as it starts drying, it starts just picking up on itself. It lifts up all of your foundation. It's incredibly patchy. It's a terrible product. The Glossier Cloud Paint in Spark is beautiful. I love the Cloud Paint formula. I just hate the applicator because I'm going to try to squeeze out like the smallest amount. Oh God, the pressure. Don't do it. Don't do it. Like that is the smallest amount that you can possibly use because of that applicator. And that's what Spark looks like. It ends up being that much blush. Super stunning color, great formula, but the applicator is terrible and it's just too pigmented for my skin. So this would be a great product if you have darker skin. Now, I have nothing against these Semois like multi-sticks. It's just that, like I mentioned in my full face of makeup fails video, I'm not reaching for balmy cheek products. These are very, very new, so I'm gonna see if anyone wants them. But my favorite shade is this one, which is Flushed. And it's just like a really nice sort of mauve-y brown. But see, first of all, I just find with cheek sticks, they're stiff at first, and so you really have to like get them going. So that either means you have to like warm it up on your fingers and then you take too much, or you really have to dig in with a brush, and then because they're stiffer, they're harder to blend. Oh wait, they all say flushed. This is unfazed. But as I was saying, like I just find that with any type of like balmy or gel like cheek product, I find that the texture of those is just too sticky. And a sticky formula on the face means a more difficult product to blend. I mean, I think that color is incredible. These two shades in particular are great. The kind of like stick formula or sort of like balmy pressed sticky balm cheek is just, it's too sticky. They always lift my foundation. So as we are talking about how I am changing my habits as a consumer, I am not buying those types of formulas anymore because I don't want to be wasting my money. I don't want to be negatively impacting the environment more than I already do. When I bought this Ilia Color Haze in Temptation, that was the time when I hadn't yet realized that I prefer cream powder hybrid blushes or just generally blushes that are really, really easy to blend. As much as I think these color hazes look beautiful on the cheeks, I do find that they're just a difficult product. It's like kind of tough to squeeze product out. You have to put it on the back of your hand. And I just find if I use my fingers, like again, there's that stickiness that makes it a little more difficult to blend. And, you know, as I'm talking about my habits as a consumer, stickier cheek or face products are a no-go for me now. So while I used to love this formula, I just find that it's not the most blendable, which means it's not the fastest to apply, which means I'm not gonna reach for it. Once it's actually on your cheeks, it's a beautiful product. They smell like vanilla, which I actually really like. But because they're kind of a hybrid between a cream and a balm, they're just not the easiest to blend. Let's just finish the Ilia Color Haze. This is actually an empty. I've used up all of this Color Haze and Waking Up. I kind of want to keep it because it's my favorite blush color of all time. This is empty, so I don't know what I'm trying to do here. Let me see if I can squeeze any out. Oh, come on. There we go. I just adore this color so much. I had first used this in my Joshua Tree makeup tutorial when I turned 30. And I just love this color. It's definitely a little bit peachy, like it's warm. It has for sure a lot of terracotta. On the cheeks, there's also like a little bit of pink in it. There's a little bit of like dustiness to it too, so that it really looks neutral. It's like a really interesting kind of amoeba color. Amorphous? Am I trying to say amorphous? I don't think I mean amoeba. I'm not sure. But what I mean is that like sometimes it looks different to me. Sometimes it looks very terracotta, sometimes it looks very neutral, sometimes it looks a little pink, but I just don't really think I need these kinds of formulas anymore. Since we talked about Glossier, the only reason I'm getting rid of this is an all-time favorite blush for me. It's just because the product expired and it kind of changed color. Like, Puff is this beautiful pink and it looks normal on my hand right now, but it used to be so much more pigmented. And now when I apply a touch, it completely disappears. So I think that means that it's just time to go. RIP Cloud Paint and Puff. I'm not going to repurchase it because I have so many other pink blushes. You know, my Phytosurgence, Skin Spark, and Simmer. I mean, I have so many pink blushes. So yeah, I just don't need to repurchase it. Similar situation with the Daniel Sandler watercolor blush in So Pretty. Gorgeous, gorgeous formula. But as much as this looks incredible on the skin, I find that it fades very quickly and it's just tricky to apply. Like, you have to, you know, dispense the product on the back of your hand. Then you have to get your brush in a little bit because it's quite pigmented, and you kind of have to just dip it in there and apply on your cheeks, and then it fades, and so you have to apply some more. And I just find that it's a little oily for me. I just find that makes it fade quickly because of the presence of oil. So while that color is stunning and really brightens up the face, you know, the theme here is that I'm just only going to keep blushes in my collection that are easy to apply, easy to blend, and very fast. Next up, we have these Han Cosmetics blushes. I've owned many more of these, but these are the two I kept to try to find color dupes of. If you have not been here for a long time, Han Cosmetics went off on me on Instagram and they blocked me. So I can't even see their social media pages. Their founder got very upset at me when they launched a tinted sunscreen with only a couple shades. It was like all light shades, maybe 2 medium and 1 dark. And I commented on their Instagram post and I said that I felt that was unacceptable. The founder got extremely defensive, went off on this massive soapbox argument about how hard it is to formulate zinc sunscreens and zinc products with deep skin in mind, blah, 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 blah. I kept it very respectful and I basically just like debunked all of the excuses that she gave, and then she blocked me. Like, I was being perfectly respectful. I wasn't getting angry. I wasn't using any inflammatory language, but yeah, she blocked me. So Han Cosmetics, one of the worst companies that I have come across. At first, I really liked this CoverGirl Clean Fresh Cream Blush in Flushed, but ultimately I realized it was so pigmented, it was just like kind of hard for me to apply. It's a really beautiful red shade, and I actually quite like the formula. Like, it's a cream that's very blendable, but just 1 dot and it's like so much. So while it's really beautiful, it has these like little flattering shimmers. I just really wasn't reaching for this, and even though it's not a bad product at all, it's just, I just don't reach for it. The Honest Beauty, oof, I love this. The Honest Beauty Cream Cheek Blush in Peony Pink. I kept Rose Pink because Rose Pink is a bit more neutral. It's a little bit less bright. It's a little bit lighter. I love this formula. This is one that I wouldn't consider a bomb. This is like a classic cream, and that's the kind of formula I love. I just find they don't lift my foundation. They're easy to blend. They look beautiful and quite airbrushed on the cheeks. I just wasn't reaching for this color. It's quite old at this point. As much as I love this formula, I don't want to keep anything in my collection that I don't reach for. And I really haven't been going for peachy pinks. For me, it's been all about like bronzy, terracotta rose shades, and pinks. So this one is going to go in the trash. It is several years old, but I kept the shade Rose Pink. Lastly, in the blush category, the Undone Beauty Lip and Cheek in Unfazed. Such a pretty color. It's like a reddish coral, but this is what I consider to be that balm texture I don't like. See how there's like a sheerness to it versus the Honest Beauty Cream Blush that was a cream? This is like a gel, which reminds me of the Tower 28s. And it's kind of patchy. And because of that stickiness, it's hard to blend. Like you can see already, it's kind of patchy. It's just not my kind of product. So I think we can certainly say the lesson learned when it comes to blush is no more balm, gel, or stick blushes. And I've also made the decision not to buy any blushes that I have shade dupes for. I'm also not buying any other highlighters. I have my perfect ones and I don't need any more. Lastly, we have highlighters. These are all far too old to ever give to anyone else. First, this is actually going to be tough to get rid of. This is the Balm Mary Luminizer. I've had this since college, which was over 10 years ago, and it looks like it's brand new. A little bit goes such a long way with this that I would just be like, shoop, and that would be all I need for an entire day. It's actually a very skin-like powder despite being so intensely pigmented. I just don't reach for powder highlights. So it's 10 years old. I don't reach for it. It's time for her to go. I loved this. This was the Sarah Loves Beauty Hot Climates highlighter. Unfortunately, this completely melted last summer during fire season in the Bay Area. And as you can see, it is not usable. I popped it in the fridge. It melted again. It's just, yeah, it didn't work. So if you do have these highlighters, make sure to keep them at room temperature. This has been one of my favorites. You can see this is very well loved, the RMS Living Luminizer Highlighter. I just don't support RMS anymore. The founder is super racist. She promotes fear-mongering. She compared her coconut oil to crack cocaine. They've just severely disappointed me. I want to spend my money elsewhere. I can send you links and information to Instagram pages that have compiled a lot of evidence of racism within RMS and from the founder herself. So I would love if you all join me in, not supporting that. So that's it from me today. I wonder, have you guys learned anything about my preferences? What do you think about how my style has evolved throughout the years? I think that all of this is really interesting and I'm learning a lot about myself and where I need to improve my habits as a consumer. So I will now give you an overview of the final base product collection. Okay, that's it for this declutter from me and my crazy alfalfa hair. I feel pretty happy about that. You know, like I said, I want that base product drawer to be a little bit more minimal, and I'm just gonna have to try to really dig deep on if I'm truly gonna use a product. So stay tuned for that, but decluttered a lot of stuff. Again, this is all stuff I've been pulling out of my collection for about a year and a half, if not more than that. It's not like I did all of this at once, but I hope you've enjoyed this, and I'll see you in the eyeshadow declutter.